two that were,
I came up with three, but I'm not really even happy with those. I mean, it was, I know that one site, gives us everybody that can type.
Yeah, that was, I didn't see anybody there.
well, on my list is Hall.
Yeah.
And for multiple reasons. And I recommend that we refer his agreement to Patterson, just to make sure that it's reasonable.
What else do you have?
I got a lot of notes on that one. The other one is Amelia Baird.
I have her too. My feeling is that she won't stay long,
Right.
because she has a strong background in science,
Yep.
and I think that's where she's leaning.
Where she's headed, I agree.
Then I have Steven Kandinsky, I get that right? Kandinsky?
What page is he on, Bill?
I don't know. I'm referring to my handwritten notes.
Oh,
He has site plan experience, project management, survey and maps,
177.
being able to read
oh, way down.
plans and construction experience. He's a registered landscape architect, and he's got some computer experience.
Yeah.
And he was, 7 years as a planning commission secretary. I don't know how that works, but, or if he was, I don't know, he just had some experience
Right.
compared to the other ones which had nothing.
I had him down as worthy as an interview as well, but I felt because of his architect degree, there's no salary requirement submitted here, that the amount we pay probably isn't going to get him out of Ann Arbor. You know, he's probably 6 digits, especially with,
Who, Kandinsky? I
yeah,
think he lives in Traverse City.
I think it sounds to me like.
I
he
looked him
retired.
up on White Pages and he came up in Traverse City. He, just because this says Ann Arbor doesn't mean he lives in Ann Arbor. It doesn't say where he lives. I don't believe he lives in Ann Arbor.
But it sounded like he was ready to downsize what he was doing. Like maybe he's on the backside of retirement.
and that's possible. I mean, that's what Wally Weir indicated in his application,
Mm-hmm.
and I did mark him as well. There's no zoning background there,
Right.
but there appears to be a significant amount of, I'll say, process writing experience. He could probably rewrite our entire zoning ordinance.
I don't want to go there.
Now, for transparency's sake, I did go to school with his daughter Debbie, but that's my only
The name sounds familiar to me.
of the family, yeah. He lived at the north end of Cook Road, a few yards from where I grew up. So those were my recommendations. Anyone else?
So Hall, Baird, and where?
And I agreed with,
And Kandinsky.
yeah, I agreed with Della and Kandinsky.
Well, we've already interviewed Hall, and he didn't have any time at all. And he has reapplied, but hasn't really stated that anything has changed with his obligations, and he literally had no time to come here.
He had no office hours, so I think he was applying, wasn't he?
Yeah, pretty
Everything
much.
we done.
Well, what he wanted to do was he wanted to have us, he wanted to send his assistant. And we didn't get that much information about his assistant, and I don't think we can't hire his assistant based on an interview with Robert Hall.
We need somebody in the office.
Well, he's agreed to be here 12 hours, up to 16. And so I don't think we can slight the only person that has all of the experience we need.
Well, we could invite him back for another interview and ask him, because maybe circumstances have changed where he'd be able to give us those hours. Because he does state in his cover letter that he'd be able to do those hours.
Yeah, and he does enforcement, he does the ZBA packets, he does everything we need. Now, he won't be here 32 hours a week, which, you know, was nice to have Lindsay here to do, I'll say, other activities outside of zoning. But really what we need is a zoning administrator, making sure that somebody's putting their building in the right spot on their land.
Well, no, what he says in his letter, he doesn't offer that he's going to be here 12 to 16 hours a week. He said, based upon the anticipated workload of permits, this could be accomplished in 12 to 16 hours per week, with the ability to include an incremental hourly / contractual pay schedule based upon the type of work being performed. That does not say that he is going to do that here.
Well, we can always clarify with him if he's not gonna be able to do it here.
And also Lindsay did a lot of zoning related stuff. I mean, she did a lot of organizing in that office.
She righted the ship back there.
She did.
I believe that.
And she
But that's not done.
she wasn't doing other things besides zoning and planning.
But what we need is a zoning administrator. I understand that everybody wants to have an assistant, but I'm not here to hire an assistant, I'm here to hire a zoning administrator,
Yeah, that's what we're all here to hire,
you know.
for the
and,
public.
well,
My concern about Wallace Ware is I'm not seeing anything to do with zoning or
No.
construction or anything that would be related to that. I mean, he's got an impressive career, he really did. Very smart guy, but I don't know where it's tying into this.
My only tie-in there was all the technical writing that he generated, and zoning can sometimes be technical writing. That was my only thought.
He must be retired.
It looks like he is retiring,
I was gonna say,
according
because
to his
there's
cover letter.
everything that he's done, there's no way we could afford him for what he does.
Yeah, totally agree, unless he's retiring.
Yep.
And it was somewhere, I think he said, that he was looking to slow down, but I don't see it on his cover letter now.
You know, okay, she did put that in there, yeah.
So we need to do something, board. I recommend that we call in Stephen Kinzicki,
Amelia
Amelia,
and Hall.
and Paul.
I'm good with that.
I'm not opposed to it.
Alderman,
So, scheduling. You're in a busy time. Well, we understand that. Harvest is probably up and coming. Lloyd, your work has slowed down significantly, I understand.
Oh, yeah, I bet.
Mhm. Yep. So how do we schedule this? My recommendation would be
Pick a
that
date, and we'll see if we can do it.
we put it on the second, be the fourth Tuesday, which would have been our generally our second meeting of the month.
Well, I don't think we've ever done 3 in one night, have we? And we'd have to find out if you could even, I mean, problem is, other than Kinzicki, those other two don't live here.
Right.
Baird's coming from 2 hours away. Which means she's gonna have a 2-hour drive home after she gets done here.
If she does.
Yeah.
What would be wrong with maybe having it during the day? That would probably put you out.
Well, no, if I can give notice, I can get out. I put in so much overtime, so it takes time out there.
And then if we had something like, because Elk Rapids starts their meetings, what, like at 10 a.m. or something like that, you know? I mean, that might be a little early for somebody traveling 2 hours away.
You wanna do like a 4 o'clock in the afternoon one, or 3 o'clock, or
I was thinking maybe around 3.
3, fine with me,
You could get a couple hours off of work, we could get you home by 5 or 6.
yeah.
I'm good with whatever time. I'll work around it.
Me too.
Well, once again, we're gonna try to schedule all 3 in one day, afternoon, evening, is that what you're talking about?
I don't think we can do that. Do you? I think that's a lot.
Well, we've done 2. I don't know that we've done 3. But if you had 3, 5, and 7, you could get them all done in one day, assuming they could all be scheduled.
You could just start.
It's only
early
one.
too.
One meeting.
Let's see, they're all employed too. Is that right? They're all currently employed. So they may have to take some work off. I'm fine with 3, 5, and 7.
Is that gonna be the 4th Tuesday? What you thinking?
So do you wanna come home and see if you can get them scheduled for
I'm
that?
not gonna tell you if I can or can't.
Yeah.
Right.
If I can't be here, you guys can make that decision.
Yeah.
I'm confident.
Yeah.
So the 23rd?
July 23rd.
So notice it for July 23rd at 3, 5, and 7? guess you'll have to let us know if you can get them all for
Yeah.
those times, because
Yeah. I'll start in the morning.
well, I will go ahead and notice the date so we have it.
So just in case nobody can meet on that day, well, I guess you notice it no matter what.
Yeah,
Mhm.
you can always cancel it.
Yep. In the interest of time, I say we take new business number 3, remove or review, modify proposed lawn care maintenance specifications to next month.
No objection.
I agree.
With the exception that I do want to get somebody in here to get the tree limbs off the roof. 'Cause I'm afraid we're gonna rub a hole through the shingles.
On this building?
Yep.
And I brought that up a couple years ago, and nobody wanted to do anything about it, but I think we need a bucket truck.
That was the limb over here, that if we cut that limb down, that tree's gonna go.
Oh, that's the main part of the tree.
Yeah. Yep, it's 24 inches in
Well, we're
diameter.
gonna
what a
need
tree
somebody with a
services
bucket
charge.
truck, correct?
I don't know, but we need to get it off the roof, otherwise it's gonna rub a hole.
Someone's all gonna go to prices and find out.
That's,
If it's gonna be within PO range, and just write the PO, if you need more, we'll have it on the next meeting.
I think that's where I wanna be.
With the
Do it, I dare ya.
Hmm?
Do it, I dare ya.
You can do it, I hear. Is that a board consensus, Paul?
Absolutely.
Philip?
Yep.
Sure?
Yep.
All right. Five-acre minimum RC1 research. I say we forward it to Patterson for review. My alternate motion would be that we turn this over to the attorney for recommendation on how to proceed, especially as far as solutions moving forward. Request legal opinion from township attorney regarding the legality of 5-acre minimum lot sizes. That wasn't quite clear in the original motion. It was a 5-acre minimum, but not lot size. In the Whitewater Township zoning ordinance, and provide possible solutions for moving forward. That's my motion.
Moving forward, how?
Well, obviously, if the opinion comes back that the 5-acre minimum was incorrectly, I'll say, bestowed upon the land, that means it reverts back to, and that's kind of the question that we're asking. So if it does revert back to where it was in 72, which was 5 acres,
No, in 72, there was no 5-acre requirement.
I thought I read in the original zoning ordinance that was 5 acres as well.
No, 5 acres wasn't in the original ordinance in 72.
Okay, so we gotta find out what to do. I mean, some people bought their property because of 5 acres,
And some of us had our rights taken away.
and some people had rights taken away, yeah, no doubt. But
Well, I will state right up front that I am one of those.
Sure.
So, naturally, I want it reversed.
Sure,
I'm gonna be right up front about it. I'm in that district.
And I think other people on this board have property in that district as well. I do not.
And I do not either.
I do not, but I've always been opposed to it.
I personally think 5 acres is a huge waste of land, but it does, you know,
I feel that there's many reasons why, personal and otherwise, looking at it objectively, especially when you read through all of this and you read through some of the other stuff, and you have the conversation with the people that will tell you where the best place to build a home at this particular time in this township, it is in that area that's being restricted by the 5 acres.
say that again?
The best place to build a home in Whitewater Township would be in those areas that are being restricted by the 5 acres. Young couples, young people starting out, they can't afford to buy 5 acres. There's a 3-acre parcel on Williamsburg Road for sale right now, $59,000.
Let's be clear. Young families can't afford anything in Whitewater Township.
Grand Rapids can buy that back.
Well,
Yeah,
that's
I mean,
not necessarily true, but for me to be able to split off a piece of land and give it to my daughter who's moving home from Oklahoma so she could build a home on it, I can't do that right now. I'd have to give her a full 5 acres, and I have 4 children.
Well, let's not be stingy now.
Well, I'm saying, I've only got 13 acres. It doesn't work that way. It needs to go back to what it was before they changed it to 5 acres, in the dead of night when nobody was here.
Well, I don't think the research
It does show that.
bears that.
Well, it's not the dead of night, but there was nobody in the audience when they passed it. And there's a reason for that.
Matter of fact, what I found uniquely interesting here is that the planning commission and the township board both held public hearings.
With no notice,
But no notices.
no notices.
There was a lot of, I was here then, but I don't remember it all, but there was a lot of encouragement from
Lindsay.
2 lawyers that sat right there
Yeah.
at every meeting that forced it on everybody.
Lindsay, Teresa, and I made an exhaustive search of the November and December Record Eagle publication for all of November and December of 1988. No public hearing notice was anywhere to be found for either the planning commission or the township board. None.
So the only flaw,
Every single day was looked at very carefully.
the only flaw with that is there were 2 newspapers in town in that day.
But it says they published in the Record Eagle.
The notice of publish.
Yeah. Well, and I'd be happy to check the other newspaper. What other newspaper was there?
It was NPI, Nor Publishing, or Nor Publishing. Nor Publishing Incorporated.
They never used
Well,
that.
I don't know.
I don't know. I'm
It
just,
said the Record Eagle, so.
Record Eagle was the main one that anybody ever used back in the day.
if the notice says Record Eagle, why then the notice says Record Eagle?
Yeah,
It doesn't state the dates, so every single day had to be looked at. I don't know if you've ever looked at microfiche. It is extremely time consuming to go through.
Well, it's small too, isn't it?
It's very small, and you have to go through all the circulars, all the pages. There is no way to go immediately to the legal notices. It's all on a film about this wide that's on a reel, and you are pushing it, you know, you're spinning it with this thing and getting it to go all the other way, and it's a month at a time on a reel. And you have to start at page 1, you have to look through every single page. Now you get where you know what order things are in, and you can flip through the circulars fairly fast, but it was all looked at very, very carefully. And then, actually, then in the publication of the adoption, it says nothing about it either. It doesn't even mention the article, 11. It doesn't mention that at all. It doesn't mention any of the articles. It's a little short thing about this long. for zoning ordinance amendment 15, where the 5 acre came into Article 11.
And I picked up on that, and I wondered if, what MCL requires it to be listed out verbatim. In
Well,
other words, it did refer to it as amendment number 15. That's how the public hearing at the planning commission was held, and that's how the planning,
They
or,
don't say what the
but,
MCL
right, and that's how the township board held its public hearing.
But if you look at other amendments or other
Yes.
publications from that period of time, they clearly list out
they
what it
did,
is the changes are.
before and after.
Totally agree.
They listed all
But
of
this
those
particular
out.
one, nothing.
Nothing,
As,
nothing.
as Cheryl pointed out, we don't have to put the minutes on the township website. We don't have to update.
But the,
So
the requirements.
just because somebody does something one time does not mean there's an MCL requirement.
Well, no, they were doing it, the record clearly shows that they were doing it before the year of that particular amendment, and they were publishing the entire, every article and section number that was being amended and little blurb about it. They were doing that before and they were doing it after. So why, for that particular amendment, is there just nothing? And there was a lot of other sections, articles and section numbers that were amended in that say, because they were doing the whole site plan review thing. And none of those are mentioned either. So I just think the attorney needs to look at it, and so,
That's a pretty
So-
attorneys back then.
My motion is out there requesting.
What was your motion again?
Yeah.
Getting it,
Yep, it's basically the same as Cheryl's, except that I have added the word lot sizes after 5 acre minimum. Lot sizes in Whitewater Township zoning ordinance. And then I've asked for solutions to this problem moving forward.
I'll say that.
Should we direct the attorney as, if we, give us both scenarios? If we wish to keep it, what do we have to do? If we wish to abandon it or get rid of it, what do we have to do? Should we do that? That way we don't have to go back to them.
I believe that's a good idea.
That's what I meant by solutions moving forward, but yours is more specific, and I'm willing to amend. Yeah,
If it wasn't legally done, then technically it's null and void.
that's
On
right,
its face.
yeah.
What do we have to do
So we
to
don't have to-
abandon it if we like
We just,
to?
now, we just have to eliminate it from our books.
but some people may be objectionable to that.
Well, it'd have to go to a vote.
Well, then you
I don't
expect
know.
a petition and go through the process of reinitiating an ordinance that would work that.
The attorney may come back and say, well, if it was not done legally or posted correctly, then it's null and void. If you wish to go forward, and this is the process that you'd have to go through.
I'm sure it'd have to go through a vote.
So reread the motion as amended by Bella.
Well, I didn't take that's not an amendment to the motion. She said, she asked if we should have the attorney provide both scenarios to keep it or abandon it.
Just add that to the motion.
I mean,
Okay, so amending my motion then. Provide solutions for keeping or repealing. I guess repealing wouldn't be right
You would
either.
know,
removing.
remove it. Because you're gonna have to strike it from the books.
I mean,
Strike.
quite frankly, is there anybody here that wants to keep it? I don't.
I don't.
I don't know why we would even ask about whether we
Well,
should keep it or not.
I believe,
To be fair.
Yes, I believe that there will be, okay. I will-
I think we have to
And I think-
do due diligence for those people who purchased their land because of the 5 acre minimum.
Okay, so your amendment is to provide solutions for keeping or removing the 5 acre minimum lot size?
Right. Are we still in the second, or who seconded it the first time? Are you still willing to do that?
So it's not an acre, so it's 40.
let's have a roll call.
Bennett? I'm sorry, actually, no. Goss, yes. Hubble?
Yes.
Lawson?
Yes.
Pop?
Yes.
Bennett?
Yes.
So because you've taken the lead on this, Cheryl, can you get it to Chris?
Sure.
I'd be happy to assist with anything that you need.
Sure. So I'll provide him with the materials in the packet and the motion.
All set?
Yep.
New business number 5. It's kind of already on the planning commission's radar, but we have been giving.
I'll recommend from the board.
Yep, we have been giving recommendations from the board for the planning commission to work on certain things. And so just in keeping with that, Lindsay indicated that the master plan should be put on the schedule, and so I'm asking for board approval for the planning commission to do that. And there's, on page 244, there is a sample motion.
I'll make the motion as written.
What page is that?
244.
I think Lindsay is also agreeable to kind of being a consultant. We'd have to pay her something, I'm sure she's not gonna do it for free, but I'm wondering if we don't have to make a decision on it right now, but I think maybe we would want to have her help be a consultant and guide the planning commission a little bit on that, because she's very familiar with what the requirements are of the law, and also some various things that are currently missing in the master plan.
Might make the process go faster and be less painful.
Yeah.
Said 12 years to it too.
Something like that one.
You made a motion.
I did make the motion, waiting for a second.
I'll second it.
Motion made and seconded. Further discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. So, waterway grant award, congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
That'd be new business number 6. So, I guess the only concern I have is this is $200,000 worth of township expenditures. And we've had very little public input, and that input has been mixed at best.
Well, I think there's going to be more public input. It's been said all along that there's gonna be more public input. I'm gonna be asking And when we get to the public input, I'm gonna be asking campers and boaters, from the park to come and provide public input. I mean, they're the ones that use this facility the most. So I would like to hear from them as well, some of the issues that they have down there. But we can't really get public input on a design until we hire, first until we accept this, get a RFP put out for a professional services agreement with an engineering/construction management firm, and get a design, because everyone knows that the design that was initially drawn up as a conceptual plan was never intended to be the final plan. And are there some things we don't like about yet? Yeah, there's some things I don't like about it. And I think we have some options, and I think at the time that we have to start out with a plan that is closer to what the public input has been so far, and then refine it from there.
Is this, grant not for the docks and the?
The entry road,
Yeah, that's what.
relieving
this
the
particular
congestion
grant is
that's
for.
going on right now, where
It's-
all the traffic converges at that one.
It's not for any of the other conceptual thoughts, correct?
Well,
For
it
the
is,
entire plan.
it is for, and I think we have to go back and see, and Troy's here too, if we have any questions of him, but, it is for moving the drain field, because we were gonna talk about reconfiguring some parking possibly there. And for setting up eventual installation, it's not for the kayak launch, unfortunately. It's not for pavilion improvements, it's not for finger piers, it's not for any of that stuff, it's not even really, I mean, they did in the application talk about the boat wash station, but it was my understanding that that might not be included even initially. Now, if we can add it and that doesn't add much money to it, I mean, I don't want to go over the $400,000, and if that means we gotta add gravel parking, then we add gravel parking.
This is a phase one.
Right, because
Entry
remember
drive
the
to boat
first
launch.
plan was all those other things, maybe a second beach area, a fixed pier,
Yeah,
finger piers, all that stuff.
I'm just looking at the,
The grant application,
well, I'm
it's for
looking
what's
at
in the grant application.
I'm looking where it says, preliminary cost estimate,
What page is
phase
that
one.
on?
265.
Right, this is
So
what
this
was,
is not the whole conceptual plan that we saw.
no,
This is specifically for entryway and boat launch.
right,
DNR grant.
but it does say dump station, boat wash,
Yep.
electrical service, ranger station, boat wash, so it's setting up some of those improvements.
But it's not for like those other things you said, which is things that other people were having problems with, that they didn't like the concept or something. So that could be addressed later down the road.
You can't take their content.
It
Future
doesn't,
planning is what I'm saying.
it doesn't address additional boat ramp space either.
Yeah, it does,
Yeah, it does.
yeah,
It doesn't address additional parking, correct?
it does.
What? The only place they talk about the launch is 11 through 14. And if you're telling me you're gonna have a 6 by 18, 6 foot wide by 18 foot long boat launch, I'm gonna tell you that's a damn small boat.
Those are planks.
I understand that.
4 foot by 18 plan.
24
Oh,
of them,
24 of them.
24 of them. What is
Still a
this
small
rubber
boat,
belt?
It goes on the end of the planks to deflect prop wash.
Okay,
keep it from eroding the
okay, I
plants.
wonder what that was.
Michelle, in the picture here, it shows what phase one covers.
What page?
That's 266.
Entry drive modification, new gravel drives, relocation of the ranger station, relocation of existing drain field to accommodate new gravel trailer parking.
Basically,
Now, it doesn't say the launch.
well, it's the two areas that are encircled in the red dotted line. They're both called out as phase one.
Right.
The launch is included.
Well, it's down here in the other corner, Cheryl. It continues on.
Okay, oh, I see, yeah, okay, I see.
Takes a while for those red dots to come up.
Yeah,
It does
those
not.
pages don't look
Okay, so
I'm gonna
removal of
take your
existing 4-foot by 18-foot launch planks, 2,500 square feet of poured-in-place concrete, installation of 24 6x18 planks. Are those the planks? What are they made out of?
Concrete.
Concrete, okay, for 4 launch bays, 3 new skid piers.
That's what goes in the water, right, those concrete planks?
Yep.
That's what's in the water right now, that on one side of the launch, we have one sinking. And so it's created a lip there, and some of the small boat trailers sometimes get stuck on that. And they have to back up and move over a little bit.
So, I guess my point was, is that this grant is specifically for what we're looking at on this page here.
Yep.
And that's listed here. It's not for any of the other conceptual
No.
things we were talking about.
No,
Doesn't even cover restrooms, does it?
no, it doesn't cover any day use parking, pavilion improvements.
I think this particular type of project would be too much if you did not phase it out.
And remember, they had the original cost estimate for everything was really expensive. I don't remember what that was. Now, it was over $1 million, I think, or something like that
Wasn't it?
for everything. And we said, we can't do that. We have to scale this back. We can't do all of this at once.
Right?
And so it's your intent to have general fund money finance this,
No.
The other one.
but then be
No.
paid back. Is that right?
Well, actually, as the memo states, because the agreement requires us to immediately appropriate the 200,000, and I think I said the park fund has 245, which I don't want to only have 45 in there. I said, let's appropriate 150 from there. Let's get the other 50. We could get it from the public improvement fund, or we could get it from the general fund. But actually, I think we've got other grant sources that we can apply for. Now, whether we'll get them or not, I don't know. And even if we don't get them, being phased over, 2 fiscal periods, I would hope that we don't actually use any general fund money. And if we do, the park fund pays it back to the general fund, so that at least keep it that, as it has been for numerous years now, no taxpayer funds support the park, support Whitewater Township Park.
I think it's a good concept.
I'm in agreement with it.
Me too.
Make a motion. Somebody make it.
I have a motion.
I'll make the motion as you put here.
What page is that?
247.
To adopt resolution 1912 authorizing execution of the waterways grant agreement, voting access, site construction by the supervisor or clerk.
I'll second.
So motion made and seconded. Further discussion is that I think before we actually execute the agreement, it should go to legal counsel for review. There were some scary comments, some scary clauses in there indicating that, for example, on page 251, in paragraph 3, I believe it is, paragraph B, I'm sorry, construct the facilities to the satisfaction of the department, and here's where the change comes in. There shall be no deviation from the plans and specifications without express written consent of park and recreation. So I know that this is probably cherry picking certain verbiages out of certain paragraphs, but that is what attorneys do. And so I just want to make sure that it's reviewed by someone competent to review an agreement.
Is this pretty much a standard contract that they use?
Yeah, I don't know if the state is going to be in agreement with changing this,
And who
thing.
is,
I mean, I don't, we can send it to our attorney, but I don't know that the state, I mean, this is the standard agreement that they use,
They may reject it if you try and change it.
and,
well, my other question is, if there's a deviation to the specifications of this plan, but it's, I mean, we're not, let's say that we decide we have to have, additional sidewalks, or we're removing something, it's not a big thing. How hard is it really to get the approval for change?
No, I understand.
I can comment on that. This, what you have before you is just a beautiful picture, it's not a plan. We would have to engineer a plan that would
And
go
then submit it.
to
Right.
the Waterways Commission for a review. That would be plans and specifications that they would review, which includes the contract documents for the contractor.
yeah.
So it's not this plan that's
No,
before you,
it isn't.
it would be a plan that you approve also.
And that we would take public input on. Yeah, they do have to, see the plan. There's several places in here where they're checking what we're doing and have to be in agreement with it.
And my point is merely that we're aware of any pitfalls that are in the agreement, and then it's up to us to accept or deny. But if we didn't review the agreement for any pitfalls, then we're not doing our due diligence.
Well, the motion is that authorizing execution of the Waterways Grant Agreement, voting access by the supervisor or clerk, so.
We could make this motion,
And still.
Yeah.
But
It's
you're
your
authorizing
attorney.
execution, you're authorizing
Right.
execution of the
and it
agreement.
doesn't get signed until,
But you, under this motion, you are authorizing the execution. So I put
That's
together an alternate motion, forward the waterway grant and construction agreement to legal counsel for review and bring back at a different meeting pending suitable construction plan. That's too much, because obviously the plan, as we've been informed, is not what's in front of us, it's to be generated yet.
That will take months.
And that'll take months and public input and all that. But my concern is that, who knows what CFR 45 1185 is? None of us. So,
I'm just telling you, I don't think, these are their funds, and they're not going to give us their funds unless we agree to this agreement. It's a standard agreement,
It's a process.
and there's various places in here where they're checking what we're doing
right?
so that we aren't making any mistakes, or the engineers aren't making any mistakes.
I guess I don't see any reason to hold up doing this, because we're still gonna send it to the attorney, and the attorney's gonna give us,
I think it's what we're doing. I don't think this is a contract. I think this is more of an agreement of how the process is gonna happen. And I think our approving and accepting it is we're accepting the process, and we'll go through the next stage where we'll get the attorney in there, we'll get a plan.
Yeah, it's more like your acceptance of the money, because if you don't accept it,
That's right.
they're gonna give it to someone
They're
else.
gonna give it
And
to
you only
someone
have so many days to do that.
And you'll have 2 to 3 years to develop and build the project.
well,
That's
as this board has learned before, along with the money are several strings. And all I'm saying is that we should take a look at where the strings are at. And we should know where the strings are at.
I think the strings are set out in the agreement,
pretty plain.
And that's why the agreement should be reviewed.
but why would you have the agreement reviewed if we can't change it?
so we understand exactly the liabilities that we're signing on for. That's why. And maybe we choose that this isn't worth $200,000. This would not be the first $200,000 gift that we've rejected as a township.
Well,
Is there a motion up there on the table still?
Yeah, is there?
Okay.
What is the motion, please?
motion by Hubble to adopt resolution 1912 authorizing execution of the waterways grant agreement, boating access site construction by the supervisor or clerk, and it was seconded by Lawson.
Motion made and seconded. Is there further discussion? Roll call.
Hubble?
Yes.
Lawson?
Yes.
Tom?
No.
Beck?
Yes.
Goss, yes.
Motion passes.
You got 10 minutes to get her done, boys and girls. I'm out of here.
I'll write you a note if you want to be excused early.
Thank you.
As long as you'll sign mine.
I got 2 guys that have been screaming at me for the last hour.
New business number 7. Proposed changes to Article 27 and 37. There is a sample motion to approve for legal review the planning commission's recommendations to changes of Whitewater Township zoning ordinance Article 3, 27, and 37 as written. This begins on page 268 and continues through,
275.
yeah, something like that.
I have some comments.
Okay.
Well, first of all, I don't have a problem with the Article 27 thing, getting rid of that, it's not enforced anyways. But on the standalone storage building thing, I mean, I just am quite concerned about some of this. For instance, on page 273, under 37.12D, it talks about traditional building materials, but I don't see that defined anywhere. In 3712E, it says about a storage shed that doesn't require a building permit, the size of that should be stated right in there. What size storage unit doesn't require a building permit?
That's a good point, because you said at the park, a 10 by 14 required a building.
Not for residential, but for commercial.
Oh,
There's a difference between residential and commercial.
because residential is 200 feet, is that?
Exactly.
Okay.
But for commercial or public, whatever, it's smaller. Anything over 120, you have to have a,
Land use.
no, you have to have a building permit. Anything over 120 square feet, you have to have a building permit and a commercial application.
Commercial. So,
Okay.
there's,
Can I finish? I'd like to finish my comments before we have any other comments, just to get them out there.
okay, I think that Kim can have some answers for you.
But I think
Okay.
so, but I think I'd like to get these all out. Okay, 3712F, it talks about a second building. I am not in favor of anyone putting up a second standalone storage building on a piece of property. One is plenty. The table 3712A, those sizes are, other than, I agree with the 600 square foot, but the other ones are way too big. 2,500, 4,000, and 5,000 square foot buildings, those are huge buildings. I just think those are way too big for standalone storage, ostensibly personal storage. I mean, 5,000 square foot, feet, somebody's gonna turn part of that into living quarters. And my other thing that I'm very concerned about is, how will the and there might be other things, this was my cursory review, how will the prohibition that's listed in here on using a standalone storage building as a dwelling be enforced? How is the zoning administrator gonna enforce that? It's not going to be done. It will be impossible to do that.
What's the statement?
Well, there is, in the very beginning, it talks about that it's not allowed to be used as a dwelling.
Yeah, right.
And I'm just saying, how in the world do you expect the zoning administrator to enforce that? It's just gonna be impossible to
Well,
enforce.
it's not the purview of the zoning administrator to support that or to police that. That is the purview of the construction code office. So arbitrarily assigning it to the zoning administrator is false to begin with.
Well, but you're putting it in our zoning ordinance.
That
Right.
doesn't matter.
Why would it not matter?
The jurisdiction is the building
Then you
official.
don't have a right to zone it, you're saying.
No.
Um,
You do
I just I have a thought.
a right to zone.
Are you done,
That's
Cheryl?
use.
If it's going in our zoning ordinance, we are supposed to be enforcing it, otherwise it shouldn't be in there.
Are you done, Cheryl?
Yep.
I would like to, I don't know how anybody else feels about this, but I would like to break up this motion to two separate motions. To separate 27 and 37. Motion to approve for legal review, planning commission recommendations,
Okay, is
changes
this-
to Whitewater Township zoning ordinance, Article 327.
Okay, can you say that, what's the
It's as
this
written.
motion on?
Just drop off the and 37,
What page, Della, I'm sorry?
268.
So you're making an alternate motion?
Yeah,
Okay.
So you're calling a motion to approve for legal review, the PC's recommended changes to zoning ordinance article,
327. 27 is the,
changes to,
down there.
Article 3 and 27, is that what you said?
This is Article 3, comma, 27. Does it not?
Yeah, and I didn't see, were the changes for 3
Article
included
27.
in here? I don't think I saw those. We just got 27, so I don't know what the changes were for 3.
On the top of storage buildings,
Mhm.
it's the definition of the
Right.
building.
So it is,
Oh, Article 3 definition, okay,
Right.
yeah.
I just want to handle each one of them separately, because where I agreed to send 327 or just 27, I don't agree to send,
37?
thank you.
but
It's
3
getting
is
late,
part of
guys, I'm sorry.
37.
Yeah, 3 is related.
Three-
3 is part of 37,
3 is
so,
part of 37, so we
So-
can't.
Okay, just 27.
yeah.
And I want to have an opportunity to vote no, so I would like it separated.
So your alternate motion is for 27.
Correct.
I'll second it. Motion made and seconded. Further discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. And so addressing, I'm gonna you supply us with a list of your concerns, and then we'll ship those back to the planning commission. If you could provide the entire board with a list of those concerns. Like, for example, I didn't pick up on the 5,000 foot, I must have missed that, because in the building code, I'm pretty sure 3,500 is the maximum size you can have as an accessory structure. But that's accessory structure. I'm pretty sure I can show you page and paragraph where it says 3,500 feet. Yep, I'm pretty sure I can show you.
That's tiny.
Well, I'm even talking about the 2,500 to
Sure.
4,000 square feet.
I understand, but the 4,000 would even be above the 3,500 square foot, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So,
It's 20 by 40.
so can you do that for us?
4-car garage.
Okay, you
6
want me to
car
supply a list of what I said here?
Yep.
Yeah, but you should be able to
Okay.
fit it without a residential piece of property.
Concerns
Well, I have some concerns with the
Regarding
rationale.
37.
of Article 3 and 37, I think we probably ought to keep them together because they do,
Well, 3 is just a change, just adding a definition
What
for 37.
Della, do you have some concerns to supply
Well,
to?
in the general rationale, the second bullet point down, storage buildings are one of the most common topics before the ZBA, thus indicating a need to adjust or clarify the ordinance. I challenge that. I've been on the ZBA for over 9 years now. And I've got every one of my packets. And the only request for an accessory structure has been on the lakefronts, where the house is directly, the lot is directly across the street from the house, and there's like a private road separating it. There's not been one case where somebody out on Bunker Hill that has no home out there has said, I want to put up an accessory structure.
Now you got one on Wheeler Road.
I challenge you to find it, because I couldn't find it when I went through my book. And I have Ann Couturier's ZBA packets also.
That would
So
hold-
that's misleading, and I have a problem with that.
That would hold water, except we did send out an event barn survey,
I don't know what you mean by that, Ron.
which
We're
has no,
talking,
which
we're
has no
talking,
request either. And so I'm following
but
your
she's
logic.
using, they're using it as a rationale why we have to do it.
Yep, and they use the same
And I'm saying
rationale
no.
for event barns.
It was requested that we have more public input on event barns, and the way to do it was through a survey. It's apples and oranges here, we're not talking about the same thing.
The
So,
representation is made that that's a common request at the ZBA, and Della is saying she sat on the ZBA for 9 years, it's not a common request.
it's not, other than lakefront property owners. They're the common people.
And the people want.
So, Della, will you
Sorry, we're
submit?
trying to have a conversation over
And
here.
the ability to build these structures without or before a primary dwelling is one of the most frequently asked requests. We already have an avenue for that. If they're pulling a permit, a land use permit to build a home and the accessory structure, they can build that accessory structure before the home. The land use permit just has to be pulled for the home. We have an avenue for that.
Yeah, and that needs review, because as I found out, while being interim zoning administrator, somebody wanted to remove a modular home, said they would remove the garage too, and now we wind up with the modular home gone, but the garage magically still exists.
Right, so there's gotta be something.
We have to have a performance bond if that is allowed in the future. And
I agree with that.
Yeah,
I do
that's,
agree with that.
that's one recommendation I would make. So Della, can you submit a list of your concerns on Article 37, and we'll get them to the Planning Commission?
Yes, absolutely, no problem.
And can we do that within, what's a reasonable date for you two?
I don't know,
By the end of this
10
meeting.
days or something.
Who am I sending it to?
You can send it to me, but please copy in the chair of the Planning Commission, because that's ultimately.
Because she has a,
Most of the answers to all of your questions are readily available, and it's something that we can take care of tomorrow night, honestly. most of it's in the document already.
You won't have our lists, but
Yeah.
it is what it is. So within 10 days,
Sure.
is that reasonable, Cheryl?
Yeah.
And then, bring this item back. I'm sorry, action item is to forward those lists to PC. Kim, do you have any final statements?
It's already been through the board once. We made every effort to address all of the issues that the board came up with at the previous meeting. I would ask that any concerns that you have, there are very quick answers for most of your questions, but I would ask that you are very specific, because it is a trick to try to make adjustments to accommodate multiple people who may have different opinions on the same line item. We do feel this is a need. Stating that it is the most common request is per our last 3 zoning administrators. That was the feedback we were given from them. And that's also where the comment about the ZBA frequency came from, is that came from Denny as our zoning administrator when we developed the first draft of this. So if you can be really specific, we can try to adjust accordingly. But there really are multiple issues we're trying to dial in on the ordinance to clarify, because your rights regarding accessory structures, with or without a house, however you look at it, vary radically based on who happens to be sitting in the chair in the back of the building right now. We'd like to
Did we
clarify
have this
that.
language before? I don't recall having this language before. I recall some general thing about, do we want them to pursue it?
No, this was on, I believe, the May agenda, May 11th or May 9th.
There was a version previously provided of this ordinance, based on feedback from the board the last time you discussed it, which I believe was at the March meeting, which is why I was unable to attend. We went through and adjusted the ordinance to try to address each of the line items that had come out of the meeting minutes, feedback from Lloyd, and others that were in attendance at that meeting.
It was the March meeting. You
It
are
was the
correct.
March meeting.
It was. The
So
March Township Board
we had
meeting.
made every attempt to
Does that work for you?
give you the rationale of why each line is there, and also adjust the concerns that were presented to us. And this was also worked through with Lindsay. At the time, she felt that this was a fully enforceable ordinance that would give her clarification versus what we currently have in effect. And I'm sure, although she's not as readily available as she used to be, she can give you her personal opinion if you get a hold of her directly, so it's not secondhand. But that's what she communicated to the planning commission.
I'm just curious, because I know Lindsay did some research at your request. How many townships allow standalone storage buildings? Because
Do you remember which?
And-
I wrote
Initially-
it down, it's in my office, I just don't have it at the top of my head.
Initially, she had a lot of trouble finding them.
Why is that?
What we discovered is because every township calls them something else.
Oh, yeah.
Because they're not accessory buildings. They're non-farm storage structures. They're personal storage buildings. They're storage buildings without a primary. Every township is calling them something different, but there are adjacent townships, quite a few of them, that do actually have some form of this in effect. The easiest one to affect it, or to reference right off the top of my head, is Kalkaska. They're called non-farm storage structures in Kalkaska, which is why she couldn't find them in a general reference of their zoning ordinance. And then standards and guidelines pop up in multiple areas within the ordinance actually for them. That's off the top of my head. I believe they're non-farm personal storage structures, or something close to that. That should get you, in the index, that should get you close enough. There was also a derivative in Clearwater. Do you remember any of the others, Lloyd? Several up north.
Several up north, she even went outside of Grand Traverse County and started looking, started finding them
Yes.
once she realized that they were called different things.
And then when she looked it up on the tax rolls, she thought somewhere up to 73 potential buildings that already fit this criteria in the township.
I thought most of those were on ag land though.
That doesn't mean they're an ag use. Ag land does not alter in our current zoning ordinance, does not change whether or not you can have a storage building without a primary residence.
But ag can.
If it's an ag use, in any district it is allowed. It does, actually, our ordinance does not give you more rights to an ag use in the ag district than in other districts. And that was one of the things we tried to address. One of the concerns that was passed on to us was that you didn't like the fact that there were different guidelines for different zoning districts. So we based it purely on acreage. If you have 20 acres and you happen to have some waterfront on your parcel, so your R1 zoning, you still have 20 acres that could support a larger building. So we tried to go to a straight acreage standard. The structure size with building permit requirements was not specified because that is controlled by Grand Traverse County Construction Code. We did not want to replicate their codes in our ordinance, thus submitting us to needing to change our ordinance if they change their guidelines. They control the limitation of residential at 200 square feet. That's why that was not itemized in our zoning ordinance. It is itemized in your statement of fees that you provide to the zoning administrator.
But
for
you have
administration.
building sizes in your proposed standalone.
Yes, you said shed, the building
no,
requirement for
no,
the sheds.
Yeah.
That's why the size for a land use permit was not itemized, because the size for a shed, a minimum structure size for requiring a building permit, is controlled by Grand Traverse County.
Yeah, I get that, but you've got these building sizes in here.
Those were proposed building sizes
Right.
for that acreage size.
Right.
And those were maximums. Any additional building or anything in excess of that was not just that you could, it was you would have to go through our land use or site plan review process, which requires surveys, engineered prints, and a complete review by the planning commission. It would make it not an absolute no, but a very extensive process. Someone would have to have a really good reason to want to go beyond that. And that might be something similar to having a waterfront parcel with 10 acres down the road, something like that. We've had very similar buildings already constructed. They just always put 700 square feet of living space and leave it empty. We didn't see the necessity to have living space pre-built.
Yeah, I don't think you should have any living space in them.
Well, it's
Just
legal.
for storage.
It's currently legal right now to have living space in a pole barn. You can build a pole barn as your primary residence.
Sure.
That is currently legal. It's perfectly legal, if you pass construction code, it's perfectly legal to live in a pole barn. And I think that's maybe one of the misconceptions here. A pole barn is a valid form of construction.
Well, that's why we have to have the traditional building, whatever that was language, we have to have that clarified too, because that's wide open.
Well, you can't stop somebody from building a legal building and living in it.
As long as they
No.
pass health codes and everything else.
That's right.
If you have one bathroom with one door on it,
Okay, then,
cooking facilities, and 700 square feet, you can be a legal residence.
Yep.
sure, at 700 square feet.
No, the building can be 5,000 square feet with 700 square foot apartment in one corner. That is perfectly legal. In fact, it can be a second story apartment in
The pole barn.
a 16-foot tall pole barn.
Yep.
That is also perfectly legal.
Okay,
If
so
you
you're
pass
saying
construction
somebody
code,
can
it is
take a
lawful.
vacant piece of land and put up a pole barn and live in it.
Oh, yeah.
Crisp Road,
Yeah,
they have a house over there, it's a pole barn, they built it, it's a legal residence. It is only partially a legal residence, the other half of it's pole barn.
Then
and
why
it was
do we need
permitted
this
as a pole
stand-
And it is
barn only.
permitted.
Why do we need this standalone storage thing? They can build a pole barn.
Because you're mandating that they put an apartment in it, and there's a whole nother layer of additional construction then you have to have a septic, you have to have a well, you have to have 700 square feet squared off, you have to have cooking facilities and a bathroom.
Wooden
Some
door.
people just want a box to put their toys in.
You can have a composting toilet,
Yeah,
you don't need a septic.
that's true.
Gas
You need
cooktop,
some form of sanitary services
Gas
that is registered.
cooktop,
It can
and
all be.
Yes.
truck your water
Green.
in.
I'm sorry,
Right,
where are we at with this?
Same rules.
There was a motion in a second. Did we get beyond that? I can't remember.
The motion was approved on voice vote to send the PC's recommended changes to Article 27.
27.
I thought there was another motion.
No.
No.
This is merely, Della is gonna supply, Cheryl's gonna supply their list of concerns, and I'm gonna forward
And
it
we will try to give your
PC.
response to all of them.
within 10 days. So, moving on,
Yeah. that's what-
Padawan from water trail signage. I was confused here, Dina, I'm sorry. I saw at least three different exhibits A. I saw absolutely no idea of cost. What are you looking for from the township, other than a financial commitment? We are good, I'm sorry to make you stay so late, it's beyond my bedtime by an hour.
Well, my motion has, or my memo has motions in it that deal with everything that Pal Antrim is asking for. Which is on page,
276.
yeah, they would like us to execute the Chain of Lakes Water Trail signage agreement. They're asking for some monetary contribution, and they're asking for a letter of support that the road ends at Angel Road and Carnes Road can be used as emergency exits for paddlers. Is that it?
It is, but I'm happy to expand on
And
any else.
$250 is the amount of commitment?
So we didn't actually put a dollar amount in there at all. We have asked each site owner who has to give what they can. You know, we have Ellsworth to Milton to
Sure.
Forest Home, we have a whole bunch of different people. So they have ranged from nothing at this time to $1,000 to $1,500 to $3,000. We've seen a whole gamut from, you know, different organizations.
Can you explain
So-
to me the pushback in Milton? Yeah.
So, Milton Township right now has seen the sign agreement. They wanted more time to talk about it. Their issue in Milton Township is, we're not asking for you to fund all of your signs. We're not asking you to maintain the signs. We're asking for some small monetary contribution, so when we go to other funders for all of the funding, we're showing that all of the partners are contributing something. So in order to pay for the signs, we have on the kiosk a spot, so if you saw it, there were different panels, and one of the panels will have someone's name that will help pay for that sign. And they're having some concern because they have a
Anti-sponsor rule
policy.
or policy or.
So that is what their concern is right now, is just that one sign that has someone's name who is helping contribute to make sure that sign stays maintained and stays nice looking, and we can replace it in case there's vandalism. If not, we're a small nonprofit maintaining 81 different access site signs. We don't have a budget if we don't have a revenue source to make sure those signs stay nice. And so that's our way of making sure those signs stay nice. That's all. And so that's their concern. So they're working on it because they're a road end, so we're on the agenda tomorrow morning. Let us know.
So our signs would be similar, and there would be a sponsor name
A name, yes.
somewhere on the sign. I don't know of any township rule or policy that stops us from.
It hasn't been a concern for, I'll be honest, anyone else except for them. Yes, the
I
policy.
bet it won't be a concern tomorrow, I bet they got it figured out.
They've been working on it. So,
I'll make a motion to authorize the supervisor or clerk to execute the Chain of Lakes Water Trail signage agreement.
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded, further discussion? My comment is that it needs to go in front of the attorney for review. as with all agreements. And again, what we're looking for is not necessarily to change the document, we're looking to learn for any pitfalls. This is a relatively simple agreement, I do agree, so it shouldn't take much for review. That's my only comment.
And I honestly think it is so straightforward. We are wasting township money. We are wasting the taxpayers' money having something this simple. We're just talking about some signs here. I think this board has enough.
What about sign placement though, for example? You know, I understand that that'll be up to the road commission and allowing the placement of it, for example.
Well, we're talking about 3 different signs in our case. We're talking about one at Whitewater Township Park, one at Battle Creek Natural Area, and one, I take it, at the intersection of Park Road and Elk Lake Road, which, right, directing down to go to the park.
Oh, well, yes, so you guys already have your signs.
Right.
All we wanna add is
Is
the
just
little
add on that
cattler
post.
symbol, yes.
Right,
okay,
and I
yes.
don't think there's gonna be a problem with that.
You've got one at
Right.
Clarence Road too, right?
Oh,
No,
yes,
Those are road ends.
so those two,
Oh,
so,
that's right, there's road ends.
so when we met last time, you know, there were the road ends, and you were very clear that the road ends don't belong to you, they belong to the road commission. And so I went to the road commission, and they said, yes, we totally agree with the township, they researched it, they're like, they are ours. But in good faith, because they wanna be a good partner, they're good with the signs, they wanna make sure you're okay with it, that's all. And so they are happy to let me put, you know, stakes in the ground and make sure that they're okay with where they go, you're okay where it goes, yeah. So they but they wanted to be, so that third part of the piece, there was the sign agreement, the money and the road ends are just because the road commission wants to make sure that you're all good. And even though they realize they have the jurisdiction, they want to be good neighbors and friends.
And once again, just so everybody's clear, you're buying all the signs.
Yes,
And you're
And
installing
maintaining.
all the signs.
yes.
And what we're doing is just weed whipping around them. And if they were damaged, we would let you know.
Call us.
But other than that, we're not gonna be painting or anything like that. We're just
You're
gonna
maintaining.
make sure they're able to be seen.
Who's gonna maintain the signs at Carnes Road, Angel Road?
We-
Oh, because I thought Cheryl said.
Are you gonna maintain them at the road ends?
Yeah, we're gonna own them and maintain them, they will sponsor sign too, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but you're not gonna maintain the ones at the 2 parks. You're
Well, we're not gonna
expecting-
maintain them, we are not going to mow around them, you know what I mean, at any
Right.
place, yes.
Right.
But we are going to, if they get damaged, we will replace them, that's what I mean by maintenance.
Right.
So Cheryl indicated weed whipping around them.
Well, I was suggesting that, you know, they might need to be weed whipped around. Now, somebody mows both of those road ends. I don't know who it is. I think it's adjacent property owners or something.
I can see that.
So, I mean, you know, if we need to take a pair of clippers down there and, you know, clip around them or something, I don't have a problem doing that.
I'm not too worried, they're road ends,
No.
they're emergency access sites, I'm not worried about them
Yeah.
having weeds growing up around them, the sign is, you know,
6 feet.
it's going to be, yeah, fine if there's weeds.
Oh,
To be
well,
honest,
some
Forest
days.
Home Township is placing it in a spot that they don't have to weed whack around it.
Yeah.
There's a motion made and seconded. Can you reread the motion, please?
Motion by Bennett to authorize supervisor or clerk to execute the Chain of Lakes Water Trail signage agreement, second by Gomes.
Motion made and seconded. Further discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye. Aye. Yeah.
You just missed your chance.
Aye.
Aye.
Wrong voice.
That's too late.
Motion to provide paddle antrim signage project in the amount of $250. That doesn't quite make a lot of sense. That motion to, do you care to change that a little bit, Cheryl?
No, actually I don't, because we need money for our waterways project. I mean, I realize that we're not giving you much money, but we are now saving for our larger project. So, I mean, maybe we can give something another time or something. So, I mean, we actually were talking, I've been thinking about approaching you guys for a grant, but we're not doing the kayak thing yet. So, I mean, where's it coming out of? Where's it coming out of? Is it coming out of the general fund?
Where do we pull out Milton's $1,000?
Advertising.
We pulled that out of promotional expenses out of the general fund.
Yeah.
I say it comes out of the same spot.
I'd say same thing, yeah, put signage up in the township.
Okay, who's making the motion?
I made the motion to support Paddle
Second.
signage project and now at $250. Roll call when ready.
Second that.
Pat?
Yes.
Bennett?
Yes.
Goss, yes.
3 hours.
Hubble?
Yes.
And Lawson.
Yes.
Motion to provide a letter to Grand Traverse County Road Commission stating the Whitewater Township supports the use of the road ends at Angel Road, Current Road as emergency exits for paddlers. Motion made by Supervisor Pond.
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded. Further discussion? All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. I'll draft a letter up. Cheryl, would you mind reviewing it, making sure it fits your recommendations? Or Dina, maybe you want to review it?
Yeah, either way.
They're like, even an email, but, you know, I feel like the letter's a little.
I'd be happy to do it.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, I'm sorry we kept you so late.
I appreciate your time.
Thanks for all you're doing.
Yeah.
Next time.
Well,
Sorry.
Your alarm didn't go off.
I know, I turned it off.
there's 3 motions there. Anybody willing to make those?
Well, there's 2, and then there's an alternative one. So, depends on which way you wanna go. You wanna let Brandon have the slide and return for taking out the rest of those, the kind of the framework of those components?
I'm okay with that. I'll make that motion. As
What
written.
page are those on?
288.
Last one.
Oh, very nice. Okay, there it is.
I'll second
I
it.
was one page before it, I stopped.
Is this even all of the playground equipment that we bought from East Bay too?
No, this is none of that.
None of that.
None
So
of
what
that.
was
This is the
originally
beach playground
over by the
equipment that
beach.
is
Yeah, 35 years old.
50.
or older. Mhm. Who made the motion?
I did.
Who seconds that?
I did.
Oh, you did?
Motion made and seconded. Is there further discussion? All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Those
Aye.
opposed? Motion carries.
And then the companion motion to that is that we've got the swing set frame, which we're going to keep some of the tubes because we could set up, we have some leftover ones from the East Bay stuff that isn't quite enough to have another 4 swing set, and we need some of these, 3 of these poles. But the rest of it, we would just like to have Erickson's come and get it. We have no use for the barrels, the tire,
And
the
they're willing to do
poles.
that.
That's that last
Oh, they'll
motion.
come and get it.
Is that the last one or the middle one?
No, that's the
The
middle
middle
one.
That's the
Yeah,
middle
I'll make the
one.
middle one. motion to dispose of the swing set, tires, swing
Second.
side components by request
Yeah, better make it
Salvage
first
remove Whitewater Township.
Seconded by,
Okay, that's why.
Motion made and seconded, is there further discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Last item is, letter of engagement with Racine, Sondine, Racine, and Warren regarding the conflict of interest with Patterson's firm and DTE.
Because our attorneys work with DTE.
Must be, or have represented in the past, yes. And so, in your email, I did forward all of the correspondence back and forth between Becky Schultz. We went out to Dawn. Dawn has worked with Carrie, likes that choice. I did not print all of that information. And it is only for this one tribunal docket. For some reason, we received it like on June 17th, but yet it didn't get to the attorney until, I don't know, July 1st or something like that.
I got it on June 17th. I notified Dawn of it. She got it. I thought she was going to communicate with you about it.
Right,
And then finally I remembered about it one day and I said, Dawn, what are we doing with this tax tribunal thing? And she said, oh, I was just gonna ask you to send that to the attorney.
and so essentially we got down to the last minute, Wednesday, July 3rd, and the response was required July, today, July 9th. And so Dawn stepped up to the plate, answered the initial questions. But long story short, as you can see in my memo, Dawn has indicated that DTE has had several of these proceedings in different townships over the past year. All of them have gone DTE's way. The total loss to us in revenue is about $30, but we will have to pay the $250 filing fee for DTE and their attorney fees and all that. We're gonna have $1,000 wrapped up in not even fighting this thing. And we're gonna lose $30 of revenue. And so both Dawn and I don't see a lot of sense in fighting this, but that's something different. Right now, I need approval to sign the engagement letter for Racine to represent us in front of MTT.
Where is there a spot for a signature?
I did not print that page. There's one other page.
I think you had it in the email. But
Yeah, it's all in the email. There's 20 pages in this particular document. And I only elected the hard copy, I don't know, 4 or 5.
is this your motion right here? The motion?
Yep.
I'll make the
Where
motion.
is the
Right in the
motion?
middle
It's
area.
in the memo.
In the memo.
Okay.
Yeah.
About the third paragraph down as it reads, Cheryl. I'll make the motion.
Supervisor to sign Sandy, Racine, and Doran, letter of engagement dated 7/5, covering MTT docket number. Okay,
That's a pretty specific motion,
Yep.
you know, and, okay, motion made and seconded, because we'll be spending money on this, we will need a roll call.
I didn't sit here a little while.
Bennett,
Yes.
Goss, yes, Hubble,
Yes.
Lawson.
Yes.
Now,
Yes.
I've already started a file in my office. We keep all these legal files in the clerk's office, and so I'm going to need a copy of any documents so that I can put paper copies of them in the file. I'm gonna need a copy of this fully executed engagement letter.
Sure. And like with the driveway agreement or the driveway contract with Machine Engineering, all I wait for is the approved minutes. So as soon as you have approved minutes, I'll include
But you've
that.
already signed the document.
Yeah.
So,
But that's on the draft. And so-
draft what?
that's on draft minutes. And so I'll include a copy.
But you've
of
already signed the document, we need a copy of the signed document, it doesn't matter if you have, well, those minutes have been approved now.
Yes, yeah, and you
So-
just supply them.
Okay, so
So-
we can't pay anybody until we have a copy of the contract.
Tabled items remain tabled. Board comments, discussion. Next board meeting, 8/13, public comment.
You're on for one. Sign on it. Heidi Bellamy, 8371 Windy Lane, Williamsburg, Michigan. Okay, quick note on CFR 491185. That's just drug-free. You have to be a drug-free facility. I wrote grants, I get that part. You're gonna have to be really careful with this grant, because this is a DNR grant. They're gonna watch you like a hawk. So let's not make any playground errors, let's not make any dumb errors. Let's be smart, let's read the boating requirements, let's read the fishing requirements, let's know what we're up against. You have each one of these items notated here with an amount, you better follow them to the T because they will watch this. As far as the taxpayers being put on for some of the remainder of it, you better have a really nice town hall meeting and a nice party and keep them informed because piss poor planning predicts poor performance and it will bite you very quickly. As far as changing the 5 acres to 1 acre, I think we need to move into the 20th century personally, but I think we need to do it the right way. So I think, again, let's get the public involved. They don't show up, they don't have a voice, period. But you need to get them involved. 5 acres, it is a little much because you have no housing here for anybody that wants to be a fireman or a policeman. Well, maybe a policeman. A policeman makes pretty good money. But you don't pay a fireman enough to even, they can get maybe an apartment. And as far as the minutes go, Cheryl, you can keep messing with them. I don't really care. But you know what? You were a court reporter. I really thought that you would have more respect for yourself and print at least something close to what somebody says. Other than that, remember that on that boat launch in your park, there is a long extension pipe that's disintegrating that you might want to add to one of the categories of your grants for removal if the DNR doesn't want to pay the bill because it's a hazard for boats and everything else. I'd like to see, I think everybody in this community would like to see that road paved. Only because we all have expensive vehicles. A pickup truck costs you what, 85 grand maybe? Put a boat on it. My husband won't even go to the park because he doesn't want to get dirt on his truck. So, you know, we gotta think about it a little more logically, especially if you're expecting all these people to use all your nice amenities. Other than that, I personally would like to see it go back to 1 acre, maybe 2 at most, only because maybe we can build some more affordable housing, give us better demographics, and get us some more stuff.
Kim Mangus, 1214 Sarah Drive. I wanted to speak to your 5-year master plan review. Just so the board is aware, the PC already started discussions on the master plan review back in April. That has been somewhat sidetracked by the fact that our zoning administrator once again has resigned. And that really put an issue on our progress with that. To that note, I have a request of the board. As you are looking at zoning administrators, be careful about selecting someone with a resume that looks like Lindsay, because they're likely to be here about the same length of time. If it looks too good to be true, even if they're willing to accept the job and they know the amount that we're paying, if they have a master's degree, they're completing an engineering degree, unless they're in a situation where they are downsizing and they're looking for a hobby job to keep them busy for something to do, they're not going to stay very long. We are going on the 5th zoning administrator in the 2 years that I've owned the property at the corner of Deal and Brookhead. 5 zoning administrators in 2 years. That does not create much stability.
No.
Counting interim zoning administrators and people who have come back on multiple occasions, yes. It's the 5th, this will be the 5th one.
Not in 2 years. Oh, go ahead.
Okay.
This is public comment,
Yeah, I'm,
out of line.
To that note, I did sit through the interviews you had last time. I have obviously no knowledge of your other applicants, but I will tell you that Hall sounded like he was competent. He knows the job, he's familiar, he's beyond familiar with zoning. It is his life, it is his passion. It is very possible that he can get done in less hours what others might take more hours. If we need office help, let's hire office help. If we need someone to administer the zoning, let's hire someone that can administer the zoning. I know the big issue was he was suggesting that you were hiring him as a firm and his assistant would be backup to him. I would like to request that perhaps you ask him to bring his assistant with him so that if you have other questions of the other individual, you could do so. So that you already know kind of what you're getting into. You can ask all the questions of both of them if he's willing to consider that. I also did make a request to Cheryl to pass on to the board, I don't know if she did, that perhaps a counterpoint to this would be to retain Lindsay on an hourly basis. I think Cheryl even mentioned that during the meeting. As a consultant. That would give us the backup and support to work on the master plan, to work on more detailed ordinances, to have someone who is more experienced at that much higher pay level that is appropriate to their education, but only in the amount that is needed by the planning commission or board. And I do have one other comment, and I will keep it very short. There are things that are right and wrong politically. There are things that are right and wrong legally. There are things that are right and wrong morally. And Cheryl, your comment about me at the last board meeting was wrong on all 3 of those fronts.
I'm sorry.
It is inexcusable for you to accuse me of what is a felony offense. You know me. You know darn well that that statement is inaccurate. And to make that statement publicly, at least I'm having the decency to wait until it's hometown crowd instead of doing it in front of all of the people that were here at first public comment. You know that I have not provided anyone with personal, financial, or political favors. So to accuse me of a felony in an open meeting, you have responsibilities to back up and support the things that you say. And what you said was inexcusable. Thank you.
Anyone else at all tonight?
Tim Schaefer, 5309 Moore Road. I'm gonna make it real quick. Whoever you hire for a zoning administrator, have a contract with them for a period of time. So we're not doing this 5 and 2 years.
Anyone else? Motion to adjourn at 10:39. Seconded
Yeah, yes.
at